Ukrainian soldiers from the Rubak platoon of the 82nd Separate Airborne Assault Brigade showed spectacular footage of the liquidation of 2 Russian occupiers. They tried to penetrate the rear of the defense forces, hiding under an anti-drone tent. The video was published on the channel of the Ukrainian division. At night, the soldiers recorded an attempt by Russian soldiers to crawl up to the Ukrainian front lines. The occupiers tried to disguise themselves under an anti-drone tent, which, according to their calculations, would make them invisible to thermal imaging. In reality, everything turned out differently. Well, the main thing is that the suit fits. They thought about it and pulled on blankets that cannot be seen in a thermal imager. Hello? You were deceived again and sent to die. The promo code for death has already been activated. This is how the Ukrainian military commented on the situation. The video shows the drone operator first dropping the projectile, after which a flash occurs. The camouflage coating, contrary to the enemy's expectations, flashes along with the occupier underneath it. There's one that caught fire. We see that one star is burning. What about the second one? I think the second one is also a GG. We've done our job. We're going back. The fighters' radio conversations can be heard. Both Russian occupiers lost their lives. Recently, Russia's premier tank manufacturer Uralvagonzavod announced the dispatch of a fresh consignment of T-72B3M and T-90M main battle tanks to the Russian armed forces. The delivery, confirmed through the company's official Telegram channel, underscores Russia's ongoing efforts to modernize its armored fleet amid a challenging global economic landscape. While the exact number of tanks remains undisclosed, the shipment highlights the persistent role of these Soviet-era platforms in contemporary warfare, particularly in the context of evolving battlefield threats. The announcement, timed symbolically ahead of a major national holiday, signals both industrial resilience and a commitment to sustaining military capabilities. Uralvagonzavod emphasized that the tanks incorporate approximately 200 design changes implemented over the past 3 years to enhance firepower, protection, and mobility. These upgrades include electronic warfare systems to counter drones, anti-drone netting, and rubber-reinforced armor shielding critical components like the turret rear and engine compartment. But despite this, Ukrainian drones destroy them.
Russian security forces have sharply increased checks of trucks on the roads following Ukraine's unprecedented attack on Russian strategic aviation airfields on Sunday, the Moscow Times says. In Siberia, mass inspections of trucks have begun at stationary and mobile traffic police posts, and throughout Russia, inspections of trucks with Chelyabinsk license plates have begun, sources in the logistics market told the Moscow Times. According to a representative of a trucking company, traffic police officers are opening trucks, even those sealed with customs seals, which is why documents have to be reissued. Checks are being carried out, in particular, in the Chelyabinsk and Irkutsk regions, say logisticians. Yesterday, one of our drivers stood at 3 posts for a total of 10 hours, and no one cared that he had already been checked, complains a manager of a transport company. The drones that the Ukrainian armed forces used to strike air bases in 4 Russian regions were, according to investigators, stored in a warehouse in Chelyabinsk, where they could have been delivered from China via the border with Kazakhstan. They were delivered to the airfields in trucks with Chelyabinsk license plates. Artem Timofeev, a 37-year-old resident of the Chelyabinsk region who registered an individual entrepreneur for cargo transportation last year, was put on the wanted list on suspicion of organizing the sabotage. As logisticians reported, literally the next day after the attack on the airfields, cargo control was tightened at land border checkpoints with China and Mongolia. Our sources at customs and law enforcement agencies say that the increased control will continue for at least a month, and maybe forever, fears an employee of a large transport company. Operation Spider Web was in the works for more than a year and a half. The SBU secretly smuggled small quadcopter drones into Russia, Ukrainian intelligence officials told the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. Wooden containers were then smuggled into the area, where the drones were placed before the attack. When the time came to strike, the containers were loaded onto trucks to get them closer to the airfields. The lids of the containers were then opened remotely, and the drones flew out to strike their targets. Ukrainian journalist Denis Kazansky said, "There are huge traffic jams on the highways, every truck is being stopped and searched. It's a logistical collapse." He added, "These efforts are pointless, they've realized the threat too late. It's just a show of force and an attempt to look busy." In reality, Russia's security services are now helping Ukraine by deepening the economic fallout of the attacks. During June 2025, the air defense of the Ukrainian Defense Forces destroyed 4,758 Russian air targets. American-made F-16 fighter jets, capable of engaging both cruise missiles and Shahid-type drones, have joined the air defense effort. Soviet-era MiG-29 and French Mirage 2000 jets are also being used to target incoming aerial threats. In addition to intercepting missiles and drones, Ukrainian aircraft have been striking Russian command posts, logistics hubs, and concentrations of troops and equipment. This was reported by Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Ukraine's military regularly strikes military targets in Russian-occupied territories and deep within Russia in an attempt to diminish Moscow's fighting power as it continues its war against Ukraine. These strikes are another example of Ukraine's growing ability to carry out precision attacks against high-value Russian military infrastructure, despite technological disadvantages and contested airspace. Among the downed targets are 8 aeroballistic missiles Kh-47M2, Kinzhal, 93 cruise missiles Kh-101/Kh-55SM, 14 ballistic missiles, Iskander-M/KN-23, 12 caliber cruise missiles, 13 guided air missiles Kh-5969, 27 Iskander-K cruise missiles, 2,453 Shahid-type attack UAVs, 659 reconnaissance UAVs, 1,479 UAVs of other types. In June of this year, the aviation of the Ukrainian armed forces destroyed air targets, and also hit command posts, logistics facilities, and accumulation points of enemy manpower and equipment. The sharp rise in interceptions comes amid a surge in Russian aerial attacks. On June 29 alone, Russia used more than 500 air-launched weapons in a single combined assault on Ukraine. Over the past week, Russia has fired more than 114 missiles and deployed over 1,270 drones of various types across Ukrainian territory. To counter the attacks, the Ukrainian military has increasingly relied on combat aircraft, including both jets and helicopters. In addition to these air suppression tasks, Ukraine's aircraft have carried out more than 220 ground attack and air support missions during which they struck command posts, logistics facilities, as well as concentrations of enemy personnel and equipment. This effort has not come without a cost. During the intense June 29 attack, Lieutenant Col Maxim Ustimenko became the third Ukrainian F-16 pilot to lose his life in combat and his aircraft the fourth of the 85 or so F-16s that Kiev's allies have provided. The other pilot fatalities were of Lieutenant Colonel Alexei Moonfish Mess on August 26, 2024, and 26-year-old pilot Pavlo Ivanov, who was killed during a combat mission on April 12, 2025. In a more unconventional tactic, the Ukrainian Air Force has deployed Yak-52 piston-engine aircraft to intercept Russian reconnaissance drones.